Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. This is the special OSG Fantasy Report edition. Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts that are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, rate us and review us. Give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Meh. Just give us 5 anyway. Gifted. So on this episode, we're going to dive into, as usual, we've got 3 games we're going to go deep into. We're going to talk quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and the defenses, as well as the frozen features at the end of the show. Make sure you, while you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment. Let us know what you think, because, you know, sharing is caring, and we love for you to share your opinions as well as ours. And tell us how much you won if you were to take some of our advice and dive in and make some money. So with that, we're going to jump right in. 2 things. OSG, what it do, man?
We are ready for week 5. You know, week 4 was meh, but you know, we talked about that pre-show. Felt good about some processes. Sometimes some guys just don't get the touchdown.
Yeah, man.
Quarterbacks run it in instead of dumping them off.
We got quarterbacks out here leading the league in touchdowns, just ruining everybody's numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all right. You know, I'm going to get his ass next time. I'm going to actually start him next time. That's actually probably the secret. Yeah. But no, last week was pretty okay. The millionaire winner, it was up in the air. There was a mixed bag of plays or whatnot, which is understood.
I really think each week that I'm like have been, you know, tight end and defense away from really climbing the top. Like most of the, you know, these stacks that we kind of put together, a lot of them going to hit. You know, we saw Darnold and DJ Moore, a lot of them going to hit. You could have Taylor, you know, Heineke and McLaurin hit last week.
Yep.
So it's kind of the rest of that lineup, and that's why we're going to touch on the position by position this week. Those running backs, those tight ends, and really picking the right defense each week, and that's the difference.
Oh, yeah, that's a difference maker. Yeah. If you can just, like you said, hit on that one position that you couldn't hit on last time, and boy, you end up with with a big dub. So that's where my struggle has come in, especially when it comes to the big one. I was like 1 or 2 plays away from actually hitting. Like, I
think each week, you know, and again, it's, you know, like I talked about the very first week, it's all about that puzzle. I think we actually dropped some pretty good tight end names this week. Why I didn't play them in full load like Dawson Knox last week. We touched on him. We talked about how Max Williams involved in an Arizona offense, and he got in the end zone. So, you know, it's not always those splash names; it's the games, and so, you know, gotta nail it.
That's it. Week. Like you said, you won away. Like, I'm looking at the lineup from the winner. He had Dak, Saquon Barkley, which is shocker.
Not too much, though. I told you Barkley was coming
Cordell
back.
Patterson.
We talked about
just
him.
destroyed everybody.
He's in the report, though. He was in the report last
week. He was in the report.
Because we did not like Mike Davis.
At all.
You go for him.
I don't ever like Mike Davis.
Give me the rest of the lineup. Who else on there?
You had Deebo Samuel, which had the big play from Lance. You got DJ Moore, like you mentioned. Corey Davis actually had a standout game.
Against those Titans.
Dallas Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz, not Dallas. Dalton Schultz for Dallas.
Plays for him. We'll get to him.
David Montgomery, which I told you. As a Bears fan, he hated the idea.
I know.
And I told you them. And then that Buffalo Bill defense, which won 40-0.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect setup. So he finished with 255 points. Our goals hit about 200 points. My high was 190.
Oh, that's good.
So I didn't have a bad week. It just wasn't as favorable as I wanted. I wanted it 200. And so, like you said, that's when you learn. You recognize that, okay, I'm a play away.
I like to hear those high scores. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was like I said, I was close. And so if I had 195 points was my high.
And, you know, one thing that I think that you saw by example last week, we watched some of those games together. You know, sometimes when you kind of land on some names, hey, throw them out there. You said Khalif Raymond. I was like, I don't know. Got in the end zone in that game, I believe. So, you know,
Khalif Raymond got in.
Yep.
The one flaw I had in my roster was Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I fell for that trap too.
Every week.
Yeah.
You play Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he said every week play, and some weeks it's going to happen. And they overall didn't have a good game.
But they didn't.
They just overall didn't have a good game, and so that happens too with some of these teams. Sometimes they just lay an egg.
Yeah, and that's what hurt me. So I hit a finish with 195 as my high. If I would have played more. If I would have replaced him
with like Terry McLaurin or something, for instance, or whatever that lineup was, McLaurin,
Patterson,
a couple other guys.
Could have played Patterson.
Yeah.
Added a better tight end.
Yep.
I probably would have, because first year we thought was going to be a bigger deal with all the injuries on the wide receiver side. And it looked like it was only Derrick Henry. Actually, if I would have just played Derrick Henry and then played Patterson instead of Carter.
Yeah.
Been a different story. So, it's always a woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Woulda, shoulda, couldas. My better lineups, were consistent of Darnold with DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin in the same lineup. We was high on him, called those 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he got it.
He got it. So, all right, we're going to jump into some games. Like I mentioned, we've got 3 games we're going to look at. We got the Packers and the Bengals. The Packers going to Cincinnati. The Giants going to Dallas. And then we got the Niners traveling to Arizona. The over, and I will, of course, preface with the over-unders with those games. But, again, thanks for checking us out here on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Unfair_sports on the Instagram. The OSG Report on Instagram.
Yep.
You'll see some lineups and stuff to prep you for the games, something to keep you going, as well as on our Twitter account is where you see most of my content that I put out at Unfair Sports. So, first game.
Let's go for it.
We've got the Packers of Green Bay traveling to play the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes.
In this game, the Packers are a 3-point favorite on the road. And the over-under is set at 51 as of this morning. So far it has shifted to 51. It is going up. It's going up. So, OSG, how you feeling about this game?
On the Green Bay side, I actually think instead of, I probably won't play Rodgers at 7-1, but I really like Adams and Jones individually in their spots. I don't really think that A.J. Dillon is really going to tear into it. He's kind of out-touched him. He's out-snapping him still. So,
yeah.
But I think that you can play Devontae Adams in this spot. He's 45 targets. He's getting 38% of Rodgers' targets. And that's
38%?
38% target share, which is, honestly, it's always been that way. It's very consistent that he gets that type of
that's a good point.
Target tree from Aaron Rodgers. And everybody else is just, you probably could go to Tanyan, but I really don't feel good about the other ones. It's like,
all right, I'm with you.
It's him or bust.
Yeah, so you only got Adams. On what else?
I was gonna say, and then when you about to say on Cincy's side, and it's probably just Adams in stacks that you have Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And that's how you kind of game stack. You take those pieces, and that's probably what you want to plug in.
And we talked about this pre-production with that Bengals offense. The key thing to recognize, especially when it comes to daily fantasy and just fantasy sports in general, is if you're in a PPF league or you get points for the points for receptions or whatnot.
Right.
Boyd is the catcher. Chase is the touchdown getter. He also gets the yards. So it's hard to balance.
Yeah, it's 30 to 25 on their targets from coming from Burrow, and I think either one of them are safe. The person that I don't want to have to chase in this game, we talked about him. CJ Uzoma goes out and has this big game on Thursday. Goes out and have him, and the problem is that research like Green Bay is just getting whipped week in and week out by the tight ends. When you look at the DVA, which now that we get into this point in the season where you're getting the DVA, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I'm looking at the wrong way. Yep, no.
With DVOA,
they are playing Cincy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're 8th worst against tight ends so far.
Good God.
Yeah, so it profiles as a good matchup. But in that game, T. Higgins was out. Yep. So there were extra targets to go around.
Yeah, that's true.
They do run those 3 receivers, so there'd be some way to look at it. So I think if you stack in this game, you kind of go at it a lot of different ways. You play him, you play Burrow with Boyd, you play him with Chase, you run him back with Adams.
Yep.
Play Aaron Jones.
Is Dillon playing? You think Dillon's going to get some touches too?
He will, but I still think that, and a lot of his production last week was in trash time.
Yeah,
actually had something on that. He did have 16 touches last week.
Okay,
but most of it came in the fourth quarter.
So when the game was basically out,
Aaron Jones had 16 more snaps than Dillon.
Makes sense.
Ran 14 more routes than Dillon.
Okay,
so when the game counted, it was still Aaron Jones.
Okay, that makes sense. And think about it. Remember this as well. OSG puts out a full report on every game, the best positions and everything. Right now, we're just breaking down what we feel like are the most key ones to pay attention to. You're going to need to add the additional detail to go fill certain rosters. So be prepared to do that. Okay. So defenses, any in particular you like?
No, but the elephant in the room in this game. You said that Joe Mixon was definitely ruled out.
The last time I looked was Mixon is out.
Question. So Samaje Perine, his backup, probably won't get a lot of pass work, but he's $4K on DK. That is the stone minimum price for a running back on that site. We do know that they like to run. Maybe they throw a little bit more with Mixon out as opposed to just kind of continue the same game plan. They've been upping Burrow's targets, and it kind of heightened last week against Jacksonville. Yes, it was Jacksonville, but, so that'd be something, talk about some value. It's $4K, stone minimum for a running back at least.
Yeah, and defensively, you got to remember, it was Jacksonville, but at the same time, Jacksonville's defense isn't horrendous. A lot of their situations is because Trevor Lawrence will turn the ball over. So it's not like they're playing bad just to play bad. They're playing bad because they're always on the field. So
and Green Bay isn't the greatest against running backs either. So so it's a beatable matchup. So kind of make you you have to kind of think about that this week. Be a good price saver. Or I won't say good. It's a decent price saver to consider.
Okay.
We'll say that.
Keep that in mind. Yeah. That is Cincinnati and Green Bay. Yeah. Next up, we've got the Giants taking on the Cowboys. All right, as I mentioned, next game up, we've got the New York Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. The Cowboys are 7-point favorites, and the over-under is set at 52.5. So this is a pretty high one. This is actually one of the higher ones of the week so far because the others are starting to actually drop, which is very interesting. So, OSG, what's your feelings on the Dallas Cowboys and their battle with their divisional rival, the New York Giants, and Danny the Dimer?
Yeah, keep in mind it is a divisional game. Some people kind of like Daniel Jones this week. We kept kind of attacking him early in the season because of his turnovers, but he's not turned the ball over this season. He's only turned the ball over 2 times. We talked about that. This probably will be one of the tougher secondaries he's faced if you consider this defense fairly tough, which they are. I do like Barkley in this game too, actually. I like how he's getting a little bit healthier. You see them being used in the open field, kind of similar to the way Jason Garrett used to use Zeke coming out the gate.
That makes sense.
Get him involved in the passing game. I think we're seeing that with a little bit Barkley. And, the pass catchers, we're not sure if Sepper's going to play. I think you can get exposure to this offense through Daniel Jones and Barkley only.
I can see that because that's not something that they've done in years past. So no one's looking for Saquon Barkley to run past you, even though he did that literally last week. Yeah. So there's a chance that he's probably going to do it again, and it makes sense. It makes sense, like you said, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I liked Hubbard in that same spot against Dallas. In Dallas, and hashtag revenge game for Jason Garrett. And I think he comes out. I think they come to. Come to play. I think they come to try to play and win this game. Favored by 7, but might not be a bad cover on the other side.
But this is his second time there.
Yeah, it's not the first time they've played. It's not the first time, but they know each other well. And
that's true.
And Daniel Jones with his rushing upside. We kind of talked about him like he legit can run the ball.
He really
400 yards a game. He can do that. He has that in his ceiling. So from a DFS aspect, I don't think there's anything wrong with rolling out Daniel Jones. I did say one of the highest hitting stacks last week was Sam Darnold in this matchup. Yeah, it was in comeback time. Yeah, they were throwing it, but hey, if the Giants are down by 7 or more, they'll be doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
That's a good point. So, yeah, looking at, what was that, last year when Daniel played against the Cowboys in 2020 was such a weird year for everybody.
But when you look at Dallas's DVOA, now that we got some samples, not great against quarterback, not great against receiver, not great against tight end. I'm not going to play Evan Ingram. Not falling for that.
No, I ain't falling for that shit ever again.
They're going to try to hype him up again this week, and I can't get on board. I'd rather play Dalton Schultz on the other side.
So last year, of course, they lost the game in Dallas.
Yeah, I remember that game because they did not hit the – because I actually fell for that Daniel Jones trap that week too, actually, because then Dallas had a much terrible defense, and they were getting in shootouts every week.
Yeah,
and I actually fell for that. And
they lost Dak, so you expected them to go ahead and lose, but they rallied together and won by 3. Only won by 3 that game. Dallas did. Dallas only won by 3.
And there just wasn't a lot of touchdowns. It was like a weird game. I remember that Sunday, actually. I remember that game.
Yep. So I don't know what. And 2020 was weird anyway.
Barkley was hurt. No Barkley. Not
no fans.
Offense. So I think this game got the potential to go back and forth.
I can see that, and especially now that we got fans and everything, I feel like this is going to be a different atmosphere. So,
regular game again.
So I'd say Saquon Barkley. I'd go with Daniel Jones. Yeah. I go with Daniel. If I would stack, I'd stack probably Jones and Barkley mainly because you're going to get you could get rushing touchdowns out of both.
Yes.
But I probably wouldn't touch any of the wide receivers because is Shepard even playing?
We don't know. As it get closer to Sunday, I wouldn't completely rule out the idea. Like I wouldn't talk anybody off. We kind of talked about that. A lot of these stacks are going to hit. It's kind of the rest of the roster to fill in. So Daniel Jones and Barkley. Daniel Jones and, we don't know if Slayton in or out. We don't know if Shepard. You can go with Galladay. He wasn't bad last week.
Yeah.
Again, it was mostly Barkley and Daniel Jones himself. But, won't rule him out. Won't be one of my favorites. But I kind of like getting exposure to the whole offense through Jones and Barkley only this week.
That makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Dallas, definitely you play everybody you possibly can on that Dallas roster. I don't know how this Giants defense is.
Can Dak keep hitting those touchdowns in such low volume? Probably.
I think he will. I think because they're the number 2 team in rushing yards this season. They're right behind the Cleveland Browns with the Baltimore Ravens as third. Mm-hmm. They're getting everything out of Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott as much as possible.
I hate to ride this train. Giants, they haven't been, they're 4th worst against tight ends. I really don't mind going back to Dalton Schultz. They are designing plays for him. Blake Jarwin got that touchdown, but Schultz still out route ran him. I think it was like 29-11.
Right,
he got that touchdown, but they're designing plays for Schultz. That's the tight end. The Giants are terrible against them. It's probably my favorite player. I don't mind going back to Zeke. Really, I think he's kind of. The whole offense is one that you can play every week. They have a 29.5 point implied team total. That's the highest on the board. So you can have an excuse to play everybody. You can play Dak and Cooper. You can play Dak and Lamb. Talked about Lamb. His targets seem to be going the other way all of a sudden. And it can be
and it's mainly because of Cooper. I think it's driven because of Cooper and the tight end design plays, and it looks like
driven sometimes.
Not that too, and not having Dak throw as much because of that shoulder. They may be actually trying to be cautious with that. But think about this. Alvin Kamara had his first 100-yard rushing game last week against the Giants. He ran 26 times for 120, even though they lost the game at the end of it.
Got targets.
No targets in the receiving game. So what does that tell me? Zeke, Pollard, run the ball. They're going to run. They're going to run it down the Giants' throat, and there's nothing that the Giants are going to do about it.
No, they shouldn't be able. They shouldn't have resistance to that game plan.
So, we got to be prepared for that. So
that's 4 touchdowns go around.
Yeah, and 29. Defensively, I'd probably go ahead with the Cowboys because I think that I think Danny Dimes goes back to turning the ball over because that secondary is solid. We say that Micah Parsons is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They did get rid of Jalen Smith, which is still weird to me, even with the volume of tackles. I get that he's bad, but the volume of tackles, you would think you would still want to keep that at that price point, but they decided to eat the money to get rid of the dude, and that told me everything I needed to know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, division game could be a lower total. Maybe the total doesn't hit this ceiling. Yep. And could be defense. We saw Diggs in those interceptions, and I think he is a superior quarterback than any of those receivers that the Giants will roll out, especially if Shepard misses.
Yeah, they're going to put out a whole bunch of nobodies that I ain't never heard of, and because of that.
We've heard of them, but that's just it. We've heard of them. We've heard of Slayton. We've seen Galladay.
No, I'm talking about all those unnamed dudes that just randomly pop up.
Yeah.
So
that is pass interference.
Next game up, we're going to jump into the Niners and the Cardinals. Next game up, we've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling south to play the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are 5.5 point favorites at the house, and this has a total of 49.5. Mm-hmm. OSG, I'm looking at this game, and I expect the total to hit easily. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I think that it's going to be both teams scoring. Mm-hmm. I think Arizona's going to run that bad boy up.
Yeah.
Based on the way they play.
I want to like some of the San Francisco side, and I'm not really getting past Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, as much as we know that the running backs for San Francisco hit. But
they still have a committee going right now, right? They
still have a committee going. You got a rookie quarterback that they're rolling out. So, no, I'm not sold. I'm never really, from a fantasy aspect, I'm never sold on San Francisco's offense. I very rarely play them. I probably should have been playing Deebo Samuel a little bit more than I had been. But it's just hard to get on board with Lance is since he's thrown 7 targets to Samuel, 4 to Sanu, 3 to Kittle.
Yeah. It looks like Trey Sermon's going to be their starter. I mean, he had 19 carries for 89 yards last game. That to me tells you that's who they're going to be this season.
You know, you should want to like Sermon or Mitchell because the Cardinals are giving up a lot of yards. They're giving up 148 to running backs. They're giving up 5.2 yards a carry. So you would want to see somewhere in that running game is just, do you trust them? Do you trust either of the two?
Yeah, it's true.
And, if you feel good about it, I know some Frisco fans, if you think they're worth with your game stacking when you're playing Kyler on the other side, you got to run it back with somebody. I do like Debo, but
Yeah, looking at this game, the Cardinals are third DVOA in passing. They're 16th. So they middle of the roll in the rush defense, which it looks like they've regressed on the run this season because they really shut down Derrick Henry in the first game of the season.
Yeah.
They held him up, and then they forced Tannehill to try to come back, and there was no way of coming back in that game. So I guess they've either regressed or they've just lightened up on the run defense. Yeah. I don't recall them having any injuries of significance.
I do. I like Arizona's defense, and I should say that as I'm trying to find things like San Francisco's. I'll probably have way more of Arizona's defense.
Oh yeah,
than I will of any piece.
Let me look at the weather-wise. I didn't even check the weather on the last games, but. None of those had weather. There's no weather on any of these this week, which is a really good thing. This is sunny.
Yeah.
This is all sun, guys.
Yeah,
beauty.
This is just football.
Defensively, the Cardinals are only at 2.9. That's low, especially because we're going to have a rookie quarterback. Because I know Jimmy Garoppolo's not playing.
Nope. Thank the
Lord. Since we're going to have a young quarterback, he was 9 for 18 in his first game last week. Kind of basically, quote unquote, playing more of quarterback. Yep. It looks like Shanahan is finding any way possible to not have him throw the ball.
And that's not going to work against Arizona.
Yeah, especially with that defense.
They're going to move. They're going to be moving the ball, and that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. No. But, maybe Lance has a surprise for us. Maybe a week of game planning. Yeah. Maybe they have something. I think the safest bet is Deebo Samuel. Yeah. If you just had to, if you're just forcing the game stack, I'll play Deebo Samuel and Kyler Murray and a pass catcher on the Arizona side.
Yeah, and let's talk about the pass catchers real quick. That's one of the
to go to Arizona.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's going to be tough in this game is if you're going to stack, you're going to have to mix and match. You may even go with two. You may go with Christian Kirk and an AJ Green. Yeah. Or you may stick to just Hopkins.
Yeah. I honestly don't hate AJ Green. Last year Hop's target share was 28%. It's down to 19. He's got 25 targets. AJ Green has 24. Edmonds has 22.
Yep.
Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore have 18. Max Williams has 16.
Yep.
They're spreading the ball around.
They are, and that's Kyler's game. That's the crazy part about his game is that he's
good in real life. It's great.
Yes.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for fantasy sometimes, but the one thing you can do with Kyler is you can play him standalone because he will score on the ground or in the pass. He'll run that naked bootleg that everybody knows coming, and somehow no one ever knows how to stop it.
Yeah, and, so it's very clear, Hopkins is number 1, Green is 2, Kirk is 3, Rondale's 4. They'll roll that tight end out there.
Oh, yeah, Rondale Moore. That's the other one.
Yeah.
So you can run stacks. Honestly, you can run 3 players
you gotta
on
play
that
them
one.
All. You're going to have to play them all. I actually threw that Max Williams name out there last week. Right. When you're just in this total. And, speaking of Max Williams at tight end, we didn't talk much about Kittle. There was once upon a time where I played the tight ends against Arizona every single week. So with no Kelsey on the slate, with Waller in a bad matchup against Chicago, George Kittle could be kind of like that ceiling tight end, but stick to the script. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Right. And Kyler is third in the league in passing. He's low in rushing. He hasn't really rushed for much. He just rushed for running. He has 3 rushing touchdowns, 9 pass
He's only
touchdowns.
running when he has to.
Yes. You can tell that his game has him. Honestly, him and Lamar's. What I've noticed is that both of them try not to run the ball as much as possible, unless it's and Arizona doesn't have design runs for him like they do in Baltimore.
My two, my favorite, AJ Green, Chase Edmonds, and Max Williams. Last 3 games, Max Williams, 15 of 15 on his targets from Kyler. Just perfect, just involved and consistent. The James Conner, Chase Edmonds thing. Like Edmonds, despite not getting those touchdowns, he's still over 12 fantasy points each game. He's actually run for 100 yards this year. He's still playing on 64% of the snaps over Conner's 42. It's just he's got 5 carries inside the 5, does James Conner.
And James Conner has 4 touchdowns. He's second in the NFL in touchdowns.
He's turning those into touchdowns. So
yeah,
if Edmonds gets like this receiving touchdown from 10 or 15 out, he'll be the man at 5.9. He'll be somebody you have to play. So I'm going to keep riding that Edmonds train.
That makes sense.
Sticking with him.
That makes sense.
Sticking with
him. Yeah, stick with Edmonds. If you need to go cheap and just have a running back and a flex.
Yep.
James Conner's not a bad choice, but I'd probably go to receiver over him.
Yep.
Just because, we know he's probably going to get the red zone touchdown if Kyler doesn't.
Yeah, he's banking on the touchdowns. And now if you think Arizona blows him out, then you'll probably see a little uptick of clock killing Conner time.
Yep.
That's
which I think they give it to Chase Edmonds a little bit more in those situations.
I hope so because I'm going to play a lot of them.
Yeah, play a lot of both. Hell,
I have a lot of them.
Doesn't matter, play them both.
Yep.
All right,
this kind of offense, you can just play everybody.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we're going to start talking quarterback position. We got a couple quarterbacks to key in and running backs, and we'll dive into that coming up. Again, thank you so much for checking us out here on Unfair Sports as well as the OSG Fantasy Report. Please, if you're here on YouTube, please like, subscribe, as well as share because sharing is caring. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. And if you are listening to us on the podcast, go ahead and make sure you rate us, review us, and give us some love there. All right, so quarterback. We're going to dive right into the quarterback position. Yep. OSG has some quarterbacks to keep in mind for this game that is worth your time, and we're gonna slide right in to that bad boy. All right, what we working with?
Yep, when you go from top to bottom, we've talked about Kyler Murray in the game-by-game section already. I think you can throw Tom Brady in a little bit in that mix. They got Miami at home.
Yep, which that's a 10-point favorite in that game.
They got one of the higher totals on the slate at 29 right behind Dallas, so there's 3-4 touchdowns probably coming through the air. So I don't hate Brady and Evans, don't hate Brady and Brown. We talked about, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are okay play. Kind of like he's at 7-1. I kind of like Hurts right behind him at 7K against Carolina.
Okay.
He can run. He's got that upside. Talked about Dak. I've been wondering if I even want to stack him at 6'9". He's just kind of getting, touchdowns off low volume. Justin Herbert at 6'8". He's in a tough match. Well, I won't say a tough matchup with Cleveland, but not the best. We kind of talked about why are they favored only by 1.5 at home. Could be the defense that they're facing. I kind of like Darnold under him at 6'6" a little bit better. I think Philly's defense is really terrible, really bad. That's another reason Hurts' numbers so good because he's running and throwing from behind. And they will throw and they will do that. So I kind of think that Hurts and Darnold back and forth game, I think that goes over. I think it's 44-45. And I think that Darnold and DJ Moore stacks are once again very much in play.
Yep.
I'm a glutton for punishment, so go back to Kirk Cousins, but he's at home in this dome against Detroit.
Is that a day game?
It is a day game, and in Detroit, that defense is terrible.
Does Detroit have a winning record?
No.
So then Kirk Cousins will have a great game.
There you go.
And even though he's got 9 touchdowns and 1 pick this season,
he's
who
Cousins?
He's
playing good. They just couldn't move the ball against Cleveland. He wasn't turning the ball over. They just they punt. They just Dalvin Cook tried to give it a go. But, hey, they got a W. They got it out of there. That's more important to them than it is our fantasy lineups, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's true. And I guess with that Cleveland piece, Kirk Cousins going to do much against them, so that's probably why we're not seeing a lot of out of Herbert is what the expectations is. Yep. So, okay.
Yep. And then at the low end, I don't mind Joe Burrow. We talked about him. We talked about Daniel Jones. If you really want to get wild, the Titans-Jag game has a decent over-under. So whether or not you want to consider, I don't know. Do you like Tannehill? Would you prefer Trevor Lawrence? Would you probably like Tannehill a little bit more if AJ Brown is in.
Yes, true.
But something to consider. But my favorite, I think I kind of stick with the top guns. I'm gonna have a lot of Murray. I'm gonna have a lot of Darnold, and a little bit of Jalen Hurts this week. It'll probably be my favorite 2 quarterbacks, Murray and Darnold this week.
That makes sense. Yeah. How do you think we get Bridgewater this week?
No, he hadn't practiced yet.
He practiced today, which is Thursday. Practice. So he did practice today, limited.
Okay.
They said he's progressing through the protocol, so there's a chance you can get Bridgewater, and I think Bridgewater's of safe play.
I really wish that
every
he would
week.
Play one more week. Let Drew Lock play.
Yes.
And play the defense of Pittsburgh and Denver is really what I would love to see.
Yeah, and that will make that a low game, so both those defenses are kind of safe to play.
Yeah, the total's 40. It's terrible.
Which is bad. And looking at the optimizer, I'll tell you based upon what things are optimizing the top player, yeah, it makes sense to go with either one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Mm-hmm. That's our quarterbacks that you think we should run away with.
Yes.
All right, keep those in mind, line those up. Let's dive right into running backs.
Okay, running back up top. You don't need me to tell you to play Derrick Henry against the Jags. He does have to.
What you mean? You got to tell?
He is the highest 9K. He's got to get 150 and 2 touchdowns and the pass work that he's been getting.
And remember, he does lead the league in rushing, like 500 and something yards rushing this season. So he is the top dog on the ground.
Christian McCaffrey is back at practice. He's moving along a little faster than planned. I kind of hope he sits one more week. I kind of felt good about the process of playing Chuba Hubbard last week. We kind of talked about Darnold just kind of getting those rushing touchdowns in the red zone. They were playing from behind a lot of the game. Kind of got out-scripted. He was still fairly efficient. He wasn't the worst. But look at the game script. They fell behind. There was a lot of throwing. There was a lot of DJ Moore. They're favored against Philly. So your running back may play a different role in this game.
Okay, it makes sense.
But we'll have to see if Christian McCaffrey is in, if he's 100%, if he's a full go. I kind of know, this is one of the few times that Christian McCaffrey won't be one of the highest priced running backs, and nobody probably really want to play him at that price and being a little bit gimpy, which makes him a good tournament play. 300 off of Henry. Right below him at 8.6. Like every week I keep playing Kamara. He's the only running back touching the ball. But, he bottomed out with 0 targets last week from Winston.
Yeah, he didn't catch a single pass, or target or pass. That's
Taysom Hill is taking the red zone carries. He's kind of doing the James Conner in the red zone.
That's bothering me about the way they're doing things.
And it's keeping Kamara out of the end zone. There's really, but, he's in Washington's defense is not what we thought.
No, the defensive line is solid, and that's actually it.
Yeah, that's
and you can get past the defensive line kind of easily
have
because
a great offensive line.
Yes,
and so it's really hard to get past that. I wonder what Aaron Jones is going to do against Cincinnati. He's like he's going to have a big game one week.
One to go with the highest one in the optimizer at running back is Najee Harris this week.
I can see that, because we can skip, Eckler at 7.6. We talked about Barkley, Zeke. Harris is just the pass game work. Is that sustainable? Those targets. That's the question. It's a bad matchup against Denver. So you wonder, do you want to play him at 6.9 or do you want to play Zeke at 7K? That's what you got to ask yourself.
I guess with Najee, the thing that gives me the thought to take him over Zeke is the catching. He's definitely going to get at least 7 targets.
Yes.
Because Big Ben can't throw very far. He's moving very slow, and he's doing a lot of dumps to get rid of it. And even though the team will try to key on it, you still have to watch Juju Smith-Schuster. You still got to watch Deontay Johnson. You still got to the wide receiver corp is still really good.
Then you move down.
And Ebron.
Yep. He's at 6'9". Chubb is at 6'7". I'm getting a little impatient with him, but the way to beat the Chargers on the ground, we talked about that in the pre-show. You can't throw on the Chargers.
I know.
They don't want to throw the ball.
It's so frustrating with Nick Chubb. He's number 2 in the league in rushing.
Yeah. It's just the touchdowns aren't there. Hunt
he got 3.
And Baker, they're not having that many red zone opportunities.
Yep, they don't.
Mainly because of that. But, why is it only one? The closer that game is, the better it is for Chubb. But, he's a consistent rusher.
Yeah.
And then, I think some of my favorite plays are going to be down here at the value. Like you said, some of those guys up top, we don't have to convince you to play those guys.
Right.
So here's where it gets a little tricky.
Now, this is what we need. This is where you pay attention. This is the ones that's most important.
James Robinson at 6K. He's a 20-touch candidate. Carlos Hyde is out. We saw Tennessee's defense is terrible.
Yep.
They wanted us to play Zach Wilson and Michael Carter.
Yep.
And I think that Trevor Lawrence and James Robinson combination is better. I think this is the one game that, the Jags can win. It was bad with Urban Meyer in the club last week. Stayed behind. But,
the rebound week.
It could be. You either lose locker room or you rally behind them. But this is probably James Robinson's best week to hit a ceiling at that price.
I can see that.
Yep. Chase Edmonds 5'9", right behind him. Kareem Hunt at 5'8". Not sure what to do with Damian Williams at 5'6". They got a good rushing man. He's replacing David Montgomery in Chicago.
If you're making a lot of rosters, play Clyde Edwards-Helaire. play him. I don't even care that they're playing Buffalo. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, that's the Monday night
They'll
game.
be on the Sunday night. But do play him on that showdown slate.
Yeah, showdown slate. Play Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yes.
So wish that game was on there.
I really do.
Cook is trying to play again. I wish that he would just not play and we could play Madison at 5-5. Gosh. That would be pretty. That would be better than falling on the.
Will we have a Melvin Gordon sighting?
Him and Javonte Williams are in the exact definition of a 50-50 split.
Oof.
One scores a touchdown one week. They both are average players each week, but they are like completely 50-50. Now, tell me one running back who's not in a split, and that's Leonard Fournette at 5'2".
Oh my God, he is not. And I was about to ask, he looks like someone that's
and he's only 5'2", and he checks all the boxes. He's home favorite. He can touch the ball 20 times. Mm-hmm. His quarterback likes him. He catches passes, and he can pair him up with the defense if you think they can get some turnovers. So I think a lot of the good plays are in this value range. I'm not sure what to do with Gainwell at 4.9 because Miles Sanders is just not doing anything, and he's losing pass game work to Gainwell. And if they fall behind now, it's Gainwell in the pass game.
That's true.
And we talked during the game-by-game section at what to do with PHrozen at way down there at 4.4. That is the least you can spend on the running back.
Good Lord.
And, you can play Fournette and one of the high-price plays. You can play Fournette and a mid-range play in Edmonds and Robinson and stack up your lineup other places. So
that's fair.
I think you can find 15 to 20 touches in some of these value plays, which will kind of give a little bit more in deep at the OSG report. Find us on Instagram.
Yeah, find us on the gram. Make sure you follow us as well. So with that, let me also remind you, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you subscribe, follow, rate and review, and hook us up. And look for the OSG report on our Medium page, medium.com/unfair. You'll see him with the feature page of the OSG report, as well as on his at medium.com/OSG report. Next position, let's jump right into the biggest one of the week to me, the wide receivers.
Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of them.
There's so much there's so much uncommon money available this week at the wide receiver position.
Yep. So, I think one of the wide receiver spots that you roster is going to be considering the quarterback that you may go with in your lineup. Adams up top at 8.2. He can kind of go in any lineup, but if you're going to play Rodgers, then you got to play him. If you're wanting to set money on fire like me and have Cousins and Jefferson stacks, but, Jefferson's still number one receiver. He's going to keep hitting these big games.
Yep. Thielen feels like he's just kind of he's
the same.
He's the security blanket.
Yeah, he's just steady.
He's a security blanket. He'll catch passes, but he is not the target for touchdowns. He's not the target really deep
unless it's like a 10. If it's a red zone target, he'll kind of get.
I think he goes to Jefferson more. I think he
like Jefferson on the longer throws, but it's such an early week and week 4 was such a dud. I think you really can't go wrong with either one. He's a solid wide receiver too, so you really can't go wrong with either one. Him at 7.7 at Jefferson. That makes me not want to play D-Hop at 7.6, and while DJ Moore is at 7.5. We know Moore is going to command those targets.
Yep.
D-Hop, he can have Hopkins can go out here and get 10, 12 catches and have a big game, but, the way they're spreading the ball around, it's hard to justify that with DJ Moore at 7.5 and Terry McLaurin at 7.4 sitting there.
Yeah.
We've seen a new rollout of Mike Williams at 7.2. I hate Debo at 7.1. I think he's overpriced
this week.
Who, Debo?
Yeah, mainly because
his production's been on the rise.
Yeah, his production has been, but he's also got Trey Lance this week.
Yeah. If he gets there, it'll be like fourth.
First start.
If he gets there, it'll be like fourth. It'll be like just throwing. It'll be them
playing from behind.
It'll just be Hail Mary throws.
And I guess that's probably what everybody's looking at is that they're playing from behind because
all fantasy points, even though not created equal, they are equal.
Yeah, they're playing from behind and go for it. So, what's some of our value plays that we have this week?
If you jump down, I like Jalen Hurts. So if you do Devontae Smith at 5.9, his price kind of keeps going up. I think even though 6.5 is high, I think there's some value in the Keenan Allen at 6.5 because now that Mike Williams shot up to 7.2. I think there's a little bit of. I think he can still get 10 catches in any matchup.
Really?
Keenan Allen, I think it's still in his range. With value, Jamar Chase at 5.8. Ooh, here's one I like. Marvin Jones Jr. at 5.7. along with Laviska Shenault at 4.8. We talked about DJ Shark being ruled out and this Tennessee defense being so terrible. So you got a number 1 and 2 wide receivers at 5.7 and 4.8. We don't know who's going to be 1 and 2, but Jones has been consistent. I kind of like him a little bit better than Shenault. Like he's been, Jones has been consistent throughout the whole season, no matter who's on it. So now you got to hope that Shenault gets this uptick.
I'm with you. I think one to keep in mind here too, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, we
him
talked about
and Devontae Parker.
I didn't write him down originally.
Waddle is at 4.8.
Yeah,
and then
4.8.
I didn't see what Parker was.
So so he's
Parker's 4.54.
So they're all in that same. So okay. So if you jump down here, AJ Green 5.1, Higgins 5K. I actually don't mind Renfro at 4.9. He's kind of just getting steady target. Like he's just this quiet guy you don't want to talk about, but he's one of Carr's favorite targets right now. So Shenault at 4.8. Another player, Darnell Mooney.
I just looked at Mooney. I was about to say, if there's one to consider that I know he's not going to like the idea of it.
Yeah, I actually don't mind that.
Justin Fields likes him. Justin Fields trusts him.
Yeah, we don't know if he's going to.
Obviously a bond.
Yeah, we don't know if he's going to throw it to Allen Robinson. Yeah, everybody can say Allen Robinson is the better number 1 receiver, but
100%.
If that's not his guy.
If he's not comfortable with him, he's not comfortable with him. And you can tell in the last game, Mooney was. I played him last week. Mooney was the play,
and he got 100 yards. They did not get the touchdown because all 3 touchdowns went to the running backs in that game.
But there's a chance it's going to mix up. We don't have any Montgomery this week.
We don't have any Montgomery.
So if that's the case, I would totally check out these Bears wide receivers because Justin Fields is going to get numbers. He's obviously shown he can put up numbers. He can do it. May not be the greatest at it, but he's going to do it.
Right. If you still need cheaper than that, Quintez Cephas at 4.3 against Minnesota. If you think that Jared Goff and Trash Tom can throw touchdowns coming back. And if you are a glutton for punishment again, let's say, for instance, A.J. Brown and Julio is ruled out again. I do think that you can go back to Chester Rogers at 3.9.
I hate him.
Yes, and Westbrook Keenan at 3.7.
You're probably right.
And because they flopped so bad last week, that makes nobody want. Everybody was like, let's play him this week. Then it doesn't work, and then you jump off of them in even a better matchup against Jacksonville. So if either Julio or A.J. Brown is out, I think one of the two can come back. I'm really growing my patience running out for KJ Osborne and Terrace Marshall. But Terrace Marshall's not working. That's just, and neither is I skipped over Robbie Anderson at 5K.
Oh man!
But DJ Moore is getting so many targets.
That's true. That's true.
That's what's wrong with Terrace Marshall. I don't think it's his talent. He's out there on the field. He's running wind sprints. He's just exercising. You got a lot of players. He's just exercising every play. John Ross came out of nowhere and caught that and played last week at 3.4. If you don't like that, Josh Reynolds in Tennessee. And so Stone.
I do like Reynolds.
Okay, Stone minimum play 3K. Curtis Samuel in Washington. Damani Brown might be out. They kind of banged up. Logan Thomas got hurt.
Yeah, they really are.
So you got McLaurin at 7.4 and Curtis Samuel at 3K. And we saw that Heineke can throw. He will throw. He hadn't had any bad games.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel caught all 4 of his targets, 4 receptions. It was first game back. Hadn't practiced since June. Throws in there 1 week of practice. Who knows?
And if you decide to go super heavy with the top end guys with every position, and you have a flex position, you have one person to play Greg Ward for the Philadelphia Eagles. Only because his 2 catches are touchdowns, and I think Jalen Hurts will look for him when he's going through his progressions. He has no problem with that.
I don't hate those pass catchers in Philly. I think, like I said,
I hate Ward outside of you outside of you being heavily stacked.
Yeah.
If you're heavily stacked and you are desperate for a 3,000 person, play him over a tight end and get a higher rated tight end. Because then he gets that 1 touchdown. That's going to give you enough points you got to get you about 10 points after that yards and a touchdown. That goes a lot better than going for a cheaper tight end that you could have probably gotten 20 points out of if you would have just paid up.
So a lot of value, a lot of different ways to go. Kind of depends on how the rest of your lineup has been built.
Yeah,
what's going to correlate in game stacks, and then sometimes just where some salary just fits.
Yep, you just need a little bit of luck. So make sure you check out the full write-up. There's a lot of wide receivers we talked about.
Yep.
There's more details in the actual OSG report on the Medium page, medium.com/unfair. You'll see it all in the description as well in both the podcast as well as the YouTube video. And so subscribe as well, and rate and review for Unfair Sports. So we appreciate your searches. If you're on one platform, search us for the others. So you can just listen to us or you can watch us. I mean, we get facial expressions. We make noise. We're screaming during this Thursday night football game.
Yes, watching NBA 7-3 fiasco.
Exactly. And so wrapping up the positions, we're going to jump into a double take for you. We're going to get the tight ends and defense. Yeah. Now, tight ends is usually not that big of one for me, only because you get one. I rarely play two. I don't ever put a tight end in a flex, even though you technically can with like a Kelsey, a Waller, or a Kittle, and even a Gronk.
Kind of like that more in season-long plays because sometimes your rosters may come out that way.
Right. And then you look at like Noah Fant. There's so many tight ends to deal with. So who we got that we should be paying attention to?
I'm probably going to unwisely not play Waller. He's up top at 7-3.
That's a lot. That feels like a lot.
It's a bad matchup against the Bears. Like they don't really give up a lot to tight ends. Like they never have. I would only play him in stacks with Carr, which I'm probably not going to have a lot of Carr. So I probably will not have a lot of Waller. We talked about Kittle that I always liked playing the tight ends against Arizona. I'm waiting. Hockenson has had 2 low games. He's their number 1 receiver. He's actually their target leader.
Really?
He is. He's got 30 targets and Swift at 29. So he's really their number 1 receiver at tight end at 5.5. Their number 1 receiver is Quintez Cephas. 4.3. So I don't hate him. Goddard and Ertz. Hertz likes them, but it's always just hard to click on them because you just don't know which direction he's going to go with.
That's true.
When you're dealing with that, and you hate to just that be an excuse not to play him.
But I'd say Dallas Goddard is actually, to me, it's a solid play because he gets the targets, but with him, similar to what I've seen with, he's like I said, he's up and down. He catches maybe a touchdown here or there. Waller, what I've seen is his stuff, his numbers are dropping.
And that's
his teams are keying in on him.
And it's on with the team's production now. So here are my 4 favorite tight ends. Oh, right. I don't want to say 4 favorite. 4 and then 5 at the bottom. So Dalton Schultz at 4.4.
Yep.
Gesicki is 4.2. He's getting peppered with targets ever since Brissett came in.
Yep.
He's almost like...
He likes tight ends.
Does.
He comes from the Patriot system, you can tell.
Speaking of the Patriot system, I think that we can play Hunter Henry this week at 3.7. They threw a ton last week with Mac Jones. They're playing the
Texans. They're going to destroy them.
They should, and I do think that you can play him. Parham got this touchdown, but I think that Jared Cook at 3.6 with Herbert is still a decent play. And then down bottom, one of my other favorites was Max Williams at 3.4. We talked about him. And it's a fish sucker move that Vegas wants you to waste money on. But, CJ Uzoma, like, if T. Higgins don't play, I think you can go back to him. Green Bay just have gotten whipped every week by tight ends when you go through their game logs. And so I think we're spending down at tight end this week.
Yeah.
We've had some weeks where we wanted Kelsey, we've wanted Waller, we've wanted Kittle. I think this is where you kind of shop low a little bit at tight ends. We hate that Dawson, the GOAT Knox, is off of the slate. But just wait for the prime time slate.
Yeah, I won't be touching Jack Doyle either.
But they kind of went for that more like for whatever Doyle. I think I was listening to some people. He ended up not run a lot on like 10 routes, so you don't know if he was hurt. Don't know if it was just game plan. They don't know.
Yeah.
And they went with Mo Alley Cox. But hey, you feel good about your process. The tight end in that game, in that matchup.
Well, yeah.
They just went the other way.
They just went the opposite
direction.
You
trust your process and don't completely throw everything you thought, especially the team they were playing. If you like the tight end in that spot, attack it again. Don't stop.
Cameron Brate. How you feel about him?
I don't really like the backup tight ends. Is he still in Tampa?
Yeah,
I don't like that. Him and O.J. Howard, they didn't do anything without Gronk out. They just went tight end heavy. Makes me like Fournette even more.
So Cameron Brate had 6 targets, only 2. He only brought in 2 of them. So Brady, after a while, stops trusting people, and if that's going to be the case, that may be one thing I wouldn't even touch.
I think you'd go heavy on Evans and Brown and Fournette. Godwin, with kind of his targets, he's still getting them, but kind of went down last couple of weeks.
But it's crazy it's crazy even thinking about them and then keeping like Zach Ertz.
Yeah,
I mean he had 8 targets, only had 6 pulled in 6 catches, but Dallas Goedert felt like he was more of someone that Jalen Hurts actually liked.
Yep, and Ertz is cheaper. Ertz 3.4.
And I remember in that game, Hurts was going for him.
Yeah.
He was targeting him in the end zone.
Yeah,
he just couldn't
argue
catch.
that's the three receivers is Smith, Goddard, and Ertz. Don't waste time on Jalen Reagor. Miles Sanders is going backwards. Do you trust Gainwell?
Yeah.
That's who you want to pair Hurts with, probably.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a very good point. So, okay, that's our tight ends. We're going to jump right into the defense. It's not really very many to even go too crazy into, to be honest.
I wrote a whole lot of them down. Maybe that's my problem some weeks. Find some people. But I've been picking the wrong ones. So, up top, if you can afford them, New England against this terrible, terrible Houston defense and quarterback.
Top 5. I'm just gonna make it easy for you.
Yeah.
Top 5 defenses on there. If you got the money for it, 3-6 Ravens, 3-8 Titans, Broncos at 4-2, Buccaneers 4-7, Patriots 4-9. I would consider all 5 of them. The Broncos only because of Big Ben looking old as hell.
Okay.
But if you got but those top 5 are definitely into play.
I'm gonna give you 3 tournament teams I like. The Bears.
Yep.
I don't believe in Carr. Saw him on Monday night. Everybody saw it.
Yeah, everybody saw him on
I think
TV.
the Saints are always a good tournament team. Nobody talks about them. I had them as a cover defense team for me. Averaging 10 fantasy points a game.
And they got Heineke.
Yeah. And tell you the truth, their games don't turn into shootouts because of the style of ball that they're running. They're running the ball with Kamara.
Which helps guarantee they're going to get 10 points because the points total is going to be so low. And they're going to get turnovers too.
Yeah, and so now you got them playing against Heineke while we're thinking they're good, but now he's a young quarterback, maybe get a really, really solid defense. So I don't mind the Saints' defense.
And you definitely got to play the Cardinals.
And that was the next tournament.
That's your next one is the Cardinals.
The next one.
And that goes along the line of the conversations we've had before on here. That's key and critical for this before we jump on is playing against rookie quarterbacks. You take the defense playing against rookie quarterback, and you just decide which one's the worst one. I would not touch the Falcons and the Jets.
Nope.
But
if I landed on Dallas, if I landed on the Chargers, because if Baker is that bad versus this good of a defense with the Chargers, I think they're in play. And now if you just want to spend all your money elsewhere and you want to go as low as you want to go, give you a home team 2.1 Jacksonville.
Yeah,
they scored 8 points against Arizona. They scored 9 against Denver. And, we just watched the Jets defense give Tennessee all kinds of fits last week. And if they somehow stack the box and get to Derrick Henry, which they probably won't, but at 2.1, you'll take their 3 to 5 fantasy points. If you hit the rest of your lineup with the savings.
Yeah.
I don't hate that would be the cheap defense. And it's matchup driven. I actually think this is the best chance for them to win. I like James Robinson as a running back.
Yeah.
And that's never a bad pair to pair running back with their defense. Never a bad
agreed. If out of all of those,
yeah.
And another one to consider too is Dallas at 2A.
I mentioned that Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas 2A. We talk about that in the game.
If he regresses, if Daniel Jones regresses, if somebody gets hurt in that game, because Diggs is a solid cornerback, he's the type that will pick him off.
And one sneaky play, I think we'll do that to wrap up. Keep an eye on Baker Mayfield's shoulder. Play the Chargers defense.
Yeah, I mentioned him. And if one other sneaky defense, just because they have a good defensive line, and that's Green Bay against Burrow.
Yeah, that's true.
They were better against Jacksonville because there's no pass rush there.
Yep.
But they get a little less pass heavy in games where they think that their O-line will be mismatched because they don't have a great O-line. So it's got to be a good matchup for them to let loose.
That's a good point.
And if they go heavy pass with no running game, it's more opportunity. So, never run away from those defense and those high totals.
Exactly. So keep those in mind.
Yeah.
PHrozen features next. Then we can wrap this bad boy up. Woo! All right, let's wrap this bad boy up with a bow on it. Thanks for checking us out here on YouTube as well as on the podcast. So if you're on audio or video, wherever you're at, show us some love, rate, review, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And you can hit us up on the fan line too, 430-901-1906. PHrozen features. OSG, I'm pretty amped. Favorite part. This is where we give the takes that are so cold that they're going to burn it. They're fire.
Yeah.
So
we had some last week. So.
We had some. So I'm going to give OSG 5 scenarios. I want him to give 5 positions. And he's going to tell us who he thinks we should get ready to go all in on. You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's start us off. Quarterback.
Okay.
Which quarterback's going to get us 4 touchdowns this week?
4 touchdowns.
I want to go all out.
And and I hate it because I'm probably not going to play a lot of them. I will play them,
but not a lot.
Not as much as I should. Brady.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, with their implied team total, I think he's more likely to get all 4 of his touchdowns
in the first quarter.
Yeah, that too. Every other quarterback, other quarterbacks, you got people to take touchdowns from. You got Connor taking them from Murray. You got Edmonds that could run it. Aaron Rodgers, Jones could run it.
And Tom and Tom is not going to hand it. He's probably going to either sneak it or he's chunking it.
Yep.
And they have the opportunity against that bad Dolphins defense.
Yep.
All right, running back. Who's going to get us 150 yards rushing this week?
150. 150.
150
has got to come from the easy call is Derrick Henry.
Give us the hard call.
A sneaky 150 game. I like him.
Come on.
I'm gonna reach back for that one.
Go ahead.
Aaron Jones. I think he kind of has this muscle game against a decent defense, but just kind of out of nowhere. Like everybody, it'll be where did it come from? And next week we want to play Aaron Jones. It'll just be too late.
Yep. You'll be too late. He's gonna have his game. It's gonna be like
big,
done.
Give him a big run in this game.
All right, wide receiver. Who gets us 3 touchdown receptions?
3 TDs. You got to think of some guys that's actually going to be in a back and forth game.
Also a quarterback that will key in on them all the time.
Can throw it.
Yeah.
Mike Evans. If Brady's going to go 3.
Ooh, you think he doesn't spread it around? You think he keep it in one hand?
It'll either be him or Antonio Brown, but it's kind of key in him. Evans had a good game last week. Just don't think nobody's stopping him. Give me Mike Evans for 3 touchdowns.
All right, 3 tutties from Mike Evans. All right, tight end. Who's going to get us 10 catches?
There's only a couple that have that in their range of outcome in Waller and Kittle, but a wild card one just because he's getting so many targets. And you got to run. Okay, so if we like Tampa Bay, you got to run it back with somebody. And Gesicki is getting, he's had like 12 and another, he had another good game last week.
So you think Jacoby Brissett just dumps it to Gesicki all game long?
Yes. I think that's their game plan because you got to throw it.
Makes sense.
Got to throw it.
All right, our last one. Defenses. 4 turnovers. I don't care what kind of turnovers, but who's going to get us 4?
Besides New England against that Houston terrible team. Give me the Chargers. It's Baker.
Ooh, so you think that shoulder with Baker's going to be some for real problems, and their run game's going to cough it up?
Yep. Well, I don't think Chubb's not a fumbler. I think this is purely Baker. I think he bottomed out against Minnesota because Minnesota don't have a good defense.
It's true.
At least I don't think it's a really good defense. Like I think Goff can make. I kind of like Cousins because I think Goff can kind of push the game a little bit. Cleveland never scored. They didn't make Cousins have to do anything. They was content when we were handing the ball off. So I think Baker is in trouble.
All right, man. That's our Frozen features. Then we going wild out of here. So with that,
play all them players.
Yep, and they're gonna all have a good week. Just to spit in our face on it. Go. So we appreciate you joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports with the OSG Weekly Fantasy Report for Daily Fantasy Sports. So for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing your thing on the back end for the OSG. Make sure you check out the full report. He writes it up. It comes out on Saturdays. Gives you something to look at. Reading material you can read while trying to watch that Falcons-Jets game, which I don't know why any of us would actually try to do that, because that is the early morning game, so it's not on our slate at all because it's at the crack of dawn. So if you want to play that game in somewhat contest they may have, God bless you.
Patterson, though.
I'll pray for you.
Play Patterson, though.
Play Patterson. That's about all you got. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring with friends and family that do daily fantasy sports on this episode, which is the end of every week, as well as hits up on the fan line, 430-901-1906. And with that, we'll chop it up with you in a few days.
See you at the top.
Peace.